Hello, Amy. Hello, Deborah. What's your name sign? Right now, I have no name signs. Deborah, it's good to see you. It's good to see you. I'm very thrilled to have you, really. Thank you for having me. I'm going to introduce myself first. Hello, everyone. My name is Deborah Blumenson. But for professional purposes, like this, I also go by Sonnenstrahl. This is a very special interview because it's my last one. I already interviewed 6 Jewish deaf artists. It was a wonderful experience. I have to thank Dr. Roz Rosen, who encouraged us and preached us to jump on the bandwagon. It was a wonderful journey for me when I met these fantastic artists. I noticed at the beginning of my first interview, I asked to show a pin. The pin said in ASL, "Art saves lives." I agree with that pin. We saw that in the beginning of this program. I really want to thank all the people who were involved. Now, enough about me. Let's get started. Hello, Amy. My first question for you. What is your background? Where were you born? What school did you attend? I'm curious about your life in the past. Firstly, thank you for contacting me to get involved in this important interview, discussion, and sharing perspectives of diverse artists. I'm Amy Cohen Efron. The community sign name is ABC. Oh, perfect! Beautiful! I was born in Brooklyn, New York, and my whole family is hearing except me. I'm the only deaf one. I grew up being oral. I learned sign language during my junior or senior year in high school. I never had interpreters growing up, until I was in high school. Then there happened to be a huge mainstreamed program. Large number of students with only just 2 interpreters. So we will fight to get the interpreters for maybe 1 class. Oh, interesting. It was the old days. I'm really thankful for some of the people who pushed me to go to Gallaudet. So I went to Gallaudet and received my master's degree in psychology. I became a psychologist. Back then, I enrolled in the Lexington School for the Deaf. At that time, it was oral only. It wasn't until the federal law, which was passed in 1974, parents started taking their kids out and putting them in schools closer to home. That's why we didn't know about the deaf community. My family is first-generation Americans. Both of my parents are first-generation. Wow, from where? Both of my grandparents, from both sides, moved here from Russia. Why? Because they were cast out during the pogroms. They arrived in America, then my parents were born, and they met. Then I was born. My family was raised as Orthodox Jews from Russia during the pogrom. When they moved here, my father grew up being Orthodox. As the years went on, he started changing into reform. I never knew Hebrew or went to Hebrew school. Why? Because back then, they didn't provide interpreters. There was no access for me as a deaf student. I never had my bat mitzvah. However, my mother did try to look and found a small local group for deaf Jews. It was called Our Way. Yes. My parents let me join, and I saw there were other deaf people who also celebrate Judaism. For Shabbat or Purim parties. I was unsure about it. I joined late, when I was about 14 or 15. I had so many questions like, what is Judaism? A lot of internal questions. My mother knew and encouraged me to get the exposure. I'm really thankful to my parents for that. Beautiful, thank you. I'm really spellbound. I can keep going on with my stories. I really could, but I need to shorten it. Yes, I know. Okay, the next question. I'm curious, why did you decide to become an artist? You're definitely not the only or the first one to ask me that question. I'll try to keep this story short. That's fine, take your time. Growing up oral, I wanted to communicate. I would do a lot of art. My father was an artist. He would read a lot, and he liked photography. He was a creative man. Piano playing was his favorite kind of art. So he had some influence on me to do reading and photography. I grew up doing art, and they encouraged me to keep doing it. Then I got to the point where it felt mandatory. They told me, you must get an art tutor. I had a hearing woman who would force me to do art over and over. I became resistant. I think my parents were trying to help me get a professional art career. I applaud and hats off to them. I kept doing art until I found the deaf community. I put my art aside and dove into the signing world. Oh, I see. When I was at Gallaudet, I decided to take art classes as a minor. I took art history and different classes. Plus, I was also a psychology major. Later, when I started my job as a psychologist for a deaf school, I worked at different places in the US. I kept working and working. This job is very demanding. It is emotionally and mentally draining. How was I taking care of myself? Every once in a while, I'll do graphic design. I was trying to find a way to be creative. When I was nearing the age of 50, I decided I wanted to do something different. I needed a hobby. So I put my old art toolbox in front of me. I opened it and I started all over again with what I've learned since. I felt like I was getting on a bicycle after not riding for a long time. Getting off the bicycle, getting back on to practice, it's the same thing for art. Perfect. When I was doing art, I didn't realize my years of working, the things I've seen, all were incorporated into my art. Before I was doing art, I did vlogs, shared stories, my thoughts, my opinions. Ah, yes, I remember. I would have discussions and write. I would do all of that. It really did make an impact, and I got bullied. So I put all of that on hold. I still cared about my job. I started thinking, What are the different ways I can express myself? I decided on art. Then I posted my art and saw that no one else bullied me. Yes! Art is up to your interpretation. It's interesting. In a vlog, people would see my face, but they cannot disconnect my opinion from my face. When I write, my name is on there. With art, it's just an image. I've never thought of that. I went deeper into doing art ever since. Wow, I'm very proud of you. Okay, what's your favorite medium? Or do you use different mediums? What is your favorite? The past 5 or 6 years, I've been trying out different mediums. I'm still experimenting. There's no medium I picked. I would prepare when I pick one to show my thoughts instead of letting the medium pick me. I would decide and pick. So far, I really enjoy doing digital art using the iPad. It's faster. I'm able to produce more and get my thoughts down and then post it. I'm becoming more and more of a cartoonist, an editorial cartoonist using digital. Before I used pens, markers, watercolor, and now it's changing with technology. That was a challenge. It's not easy, you know. I enjoy it. I like ink, watercolor, and I like 3D art. There's a variety of mediums I like. Versatile. If I want to say something, I would pick a medium to match it. That's what I do. I see. Beautiful. Wow. I'm learning a lot from you. Anyways, next is, well, I'm definitely interested in hearing your answer on this question. How do you define yourself in your work? Is that via deaf art point of view? Or is it just deaf art? That's all? Or is it Jewish art? Or is it another term? And why? Good question. It's a good question. During my journey, I was only doing art for 5 to 6 years. All the years I've been a psychologist seeing kids and their families, it's been very emotional relating to deaf themes. So I'd put down what I felt into art and show it to people to tell the truth and to inspire. So naturally, I didn't realize Divya does that too. So I connected with that. I would continue to put my thoughts down in art and showcase it to the public. I found it healing. Getting it all into art, putting things into perspective. Then, over time, I became more political in my art, seeing how it's impacting America, because I always identified myself as a deaf Jewish woman. These 3 things I strongly identify with, and I'm also a believer in social justice, fairness, and I was concerned about the authoritarianism and fascism gaining control. Because my family were pushed out of their country, I grew up seeing discrimination. And I moved to different parts of the United States and faced anti-Semitism. All of that instilled activism in me. I'm not afraid to speak up. During that time, with the past president's administration, I had strong feelings about it. and I decided to join the Inktober challenge. It's a 31-day challenge. The same with Devia's 27-day challenge in February. For the October challenge, for example, I draw something per day with watercolor. I decided to put it in political themes. Now I have 4 years worth of this. Interesting. It's only political art. I felt good to put it all down. It was healing, but also teaching my perspective. It was a challenge. I found myself more leaning towards political deaf art, merging two themes together. It's like having our own thing for hearing people that do political art in general, but where are the deaf political themes or deaf experience? I included deaf themes into a political landscape. That's important. Also, it can be connected to being Jewish. It all comes together. So you can call me a deaf political artist. That's new. It depends on how you want to see me. Yes, wow, okay. Do you have any idols that you are fascinated by that influence your work? That's interesting. You're not the only one who asked me that. My influence isn't who, and I think of it more as what influenced me. Yes. There's two ways of influence. I grew up in New York City. Life in New York City is known for its visual exposure and advertisements. I grew up taking the subway and I would see the advertisements every day. Yes. People don't talk at all in the New York subways, and in newspapers, I'd open it up and see advertisements. On buses, I'd see advertisements. Times Square is bombarded with advertisements. Yes. So I found out which one of these advertisements are effective and convincing. I became fascinated with persuasion. More of a propaganda. Yes. Different kinds of art are connected to it. So which kind of advertisements really convinced me to buy the products? Or which ones persuaded me? For example, don't do drugs. The eggs you break open? Yes. This is your brain on drugs. Yes. Wow, I absorbed it. So I believed in the power of images, that it can impact your thinking and change your behavior. Or it can influence your action. That is what I always found fascinating. That is what influences me. Beautiful. I'm at a loss for words. I'm finished. Can you show some samples of your art? Please? Yes, I have so many. For this interview for Jewish Deaf Congress, JDC, I think it would be nice to select the ones that are a combination of deaf, political, and Jewish. Perfect. I'm excited to see. All three are incorporated into the art. I'll show you, wait. And women too. I didn't forget. Oh, phew, you didn't forget about us. I'll start with one that is popular and very nice. It's heartwarming. I'll show it. I hope you can see it with the reflection light. I'll try to hold it up well. Yes, stay there. Yes, what does it say? ASL. Wow, beautiful. What is the name, the title of it? Tree of Life, ASL. So the tree is surrounded by popular symbols used in Judaism. For example, I replaced the leaves. Leaves. Am I signing this right? Leaves, right. Replaced it with two symbols that are blue and hand-shaped finger spellings. That's all over the tree. The blue eyes are in honor of the genetic trait of deaf people with Waardenburg syndrome. Oh, I see. Or Jewish genes that impact deafness, or any kind of genes that carries on generational deafness. Like the tree, it cycles. The root says ASL, and it is the foundation of the tree. All the hands are different colors to represent different communities. Not just white ASL or black ASL, it's all together and it's universal. I'm not talking about just sign language, of course. It's about honoring people. So it's a mixture of Jewish influence, a deaf influence, and social justice influence. In a very positive, inspirational, affirmative way. Strange thing, when I finished the piece, 2 weeks later, the shooting of Philadelphia's Tree of Life synagogue happened. 2 weeks ago, I made the art. Then it fits the situation. It gave me goosebumps. All the prints I sold, I collected and donated to the synagogue. Ooh, I have goosebumps. I'm at a loss for words. Ah, yes, I've seen that somewhere before. Hats off to Anne Silver, who influenced me. She inspired me. She made a chart of deaf culture. I admired her art. That year I had it printed, it was in 2016, around 8 months before the presidential election. I was emotional. I posted blogs and wrote articles. I was afraid and concerned about all the things that were happening. A lot of incidents shared. It was like a dog whistle. Tensions were rising. I wanted to find a way to explain what was happening in a picture. How? The concept of hate, no tolerance, discrimination, and racism. It's a big, heavy concept. How do I put all this down into an image? I thought of that chart. Why? Because of the elements you can pick out, organize it, and show how hate happens. However, on the bottom were opposite elements in white. It shows counteractions. The top shows all the hate happening, and the bottom shows what we can do. We can love, show justice, show understanding, show respect, and remember history. The bottom shows all that. Follow that. Unite to overcome the hate. I included oddism and slurs like deaf and dumb for deaf people. There are many different categories. I'm very proud of that work. I put a lot of thought into this. One of the Inktober challenges that touched me, the timing was odd too. I drew it in 2018, October of 2018. That was before the election of November. That was the midterm election. 2016 was the presidential election. In 2018, it represented the Senate and such. I drew a piece because I wanted women to take the seats to balance out our Congress. I drew this in inspiration of Van Gogh's Starry Night. I replaced the wind with blue waves. Ah, yes, yes. Blue waves catching the seats. I have no idea who the woman is until 2 years later, after the election. I realized that the woman looks like our Vice President, Kamala Harris. Yes, because I wanted a woman to take over the Capitol. See here, this is the White House, and over here is the Supreme Court. I wanted the Supreme Court to be equal or have more women. Not just 3 women in a room filled with these men. It needs to be more balanced out. That picture speaks volumes. It's amazing. Last year, JDC, Jewish Deaf Resource Center, Hillel at Gallaudet, and Washington Society of Jewish Deaf that gathered every month for Shabbat services. So last year, during Rosh Hashanah services, I participated in a Zoom event. I was excited to make the connection and feel inspired, but the services were suspended. The leader announced the sad news that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. I was in tears because I knew how important she is with her role in the Supreme Court and all the things she did for women. Yes, women couldn't apply for credit cards if it was not for her. There are numerous things she did for women. It's amazing, and she was a small Jewish woman. I was crying. I couldn't focus on Rosh Hashanah. It was supposed to be an inspiring event. When the service was finished, I sat down and created a digital art, expressing my feelings. Oh my, that's beautiful. You know that a person who dies on the eve of Rosh Hashanah is considered the highest honor? So I felt like as the sun was going down, it was Ruth's last chance to blow the shofar, calling people to come into action before she was laid to rest. An honor, a remembrance, and a blessing for her. So I really connect with this. I know this has nothing to do with being deaf. No need to explain yourself. I love it. Can I buy that? Yes, you can buy some of my artwork on the website. Great, thank you. I have so many more, but I think the time is too short. Yes, the limit is 30 minutes. It's been past 30 minutes already. Whoops! Roz will forgive us, don't worry. Many thanks for the beautiful art. I can't even describe or put it into words. Thank you for being honest with yourself. We learned a lot. Thank you so much, Amy. It's a great honor to interview with you. You're known as an art history person. It's so nice to connect with you again. Thank you. Much love. Much love. Happy Shabbat Shalom to you. Thank you. You too.